when you start a company, you're the driver, and if you have that role, that doesn't change. And this fear of failure is significant for me. That drives me, right? So it holds me accountable.
Hey guys, we're back with the Necessary Entrepreneur. I don't always give these big introductions. Sometimes I just walk them and say John, but I'm pumped today to have this conversation with John Hussey. What I didn't know to start off this conversation if I should get an animal dog tag or I should flip a coin. I'm still trying to figure out which one, so we'll figure that out. The reason being is it's really neat to have someone to have a conversation that has their foot in two worlds, and we're going to see today if we can bring together the similarities of a 20-something year career being in the NFL as a side judge and then a referee, and then now being the CEO of CUDDLY. It's almost like this guy's been a serial entrepreneur at the same time living in California and Texas and all these places and flying around the country. The perspective we're going to get today over the past 20 or 30 years of mindset, of professionalism, of balancing all these different obstacles that John's had in front of him. I'm pumped for us to sit here and learn. So, John, welcome.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to it.
Do we flip a coin or do we go get a dog tag printed? Which one?
It depends what your outcome is. I flip many a coins, and truthfully, in all the things that I've done, sometimes flipping that coin is very nerve-wracking, because it's a lot of responsibility for it to go up in the air and turn over and land. And I've had a few situations around tossing the coin. So let's go get a dog tag so I don't have to be nervous around flipping the coin.
CEO of CUDDLY. I imagine you've been doing the NFL thing for so long. I want to spend like 80% of our time in your CEO entrepreneurship world today with the company you're building and the pet food line you're launching and the purpose behind it. We'll do 20% in the NFL because everybody's interested in that. But what I'm interested today as we work through this is, what's the correlation that you can take? How entrepreneurial do you feel that being a referee is? And then if it isn't, is it more employee-minded? And then the diversity of those two, because there's so many people today looking for an opportunity to change and improve their life via entrepreneurship, to take control of their outcomes, not be an employee like all of us have been. So I'm pumped about all that. But the founder and CEO of CUDDLY, you've partnered with over 4,500 animal welfare organizations worldwide. You've raised more than $100 million. You built a passionate team of over 50 people, fulfilling CUDDLY's mission, raising funds and resources for needy animals. How'd this start, arriving here, living this great life? How did CUDDLY begin and why?
Yeah, so I was on my way to a game in 2013. I was standing in the Minneapolis airport. I was working in Minnesota, and I got a call from a friend. We sat on the board of a local Little League baseball league, and he handled the web side of the league for us, and I was the president of it. And he called me and said, "Hey, I have this business idea I'd like to pitch you." And so I'm like, "Okay, throw it at me." I'm standing in the airport, and he wanted to arbitrage adoption traffic for animals and then become a publisher. And then he also mentioned at the time that he also wanted to create a fundraising mechanism for animal welfare organizations. And I was a staunch reader of the Wall Street Journal. And so in there somewhere along that journey, I remember reading an article about crowdfunding and GoFundMe and how it was emerging. And that caught my attention. The first part of the business was kind of like, okay, that's great. Sounds like a good idea. But the fundraising piece of it really kind of got my attention. And so what I said to him, I like, look, I'll give you $25,000. Let's launch it. And let's see if the donors will trust us. And let's see if we can get shelters and rescues to trust us enough to fundraise for them. Let's prove the concept. So we built an MVP and we launched in early 2014 under a different brand name at the time. It was called Pound Wishes, actually, was the original name of the company. And it was all around the fact that his daughter, who had cancer and her like 4 or 5 years old, and had a Make-A-Wish trip to Disneyland. She's fine. She's recovered. She's healthy. She's very, very in good place. And they went to a rescue or shelter, and she asked her dad, why is there not a Make-A-Wish Foundation for these rescue animals? And that was where the genesis of the business was created. And I was the early money in. It was not my intention, nor did I understand the landscape of animal welfare like I do today. I was just going to be an investor in the company.
Was it passionate at all, or did it start by saying, hey, the pitch was, how can I get an ROI on this thing? It's okay if that's where it started.
I'm an entrepreneur, and I like the guy. He's a good guy. And I'm not afraid of taking some risks. And at the time where I was at in my life, I was traveling, making headquarter calls for a company out of Chicago where we were building retail fixture sets inside of retail. And so I was traveling a lot, as you could imagine, during the week, dragging a bag. And then I was also traveling on the weekends for football. And, when I was coming up in football, before I got into the NFL, I had worked 42 weekends a year for 2 straight years, working NFL Europe, arena football, and then major college football. And we had little kids. So I was putting a lot of pressure on the household by being gone all the time. So I was kind of looking for an opportunity to maybe, turn some hard-earned capital into something that might help me get off the road, candidly.
Mm-hmm. Why did he ask you? Was it just as simple as you were in his space and a friend, or do you think there was something specific like, hey, well, I'm John. Of course I'm smart. He's going to ask me and bring this out. Was it other than just being in the vicinity?
I think it was my entrepreneurial spirit. I think he knew that about me. And I think he knew that I would be game to hear the pitch, and, give it a green light. And I did. I'm really glad I did. It changed my life. And I've learned so much about animal welfare and the people that work in the sector, and, what they give of themselves day in and day out to these animals. And so, yeah, it was a life-changing decision. Sitting here today, it was a life-changing decision, that $25,000.
How many pitches had you listened to previous to this one? Many or no?
No, most of them were my own. Like I had started when I was 21 years old. I was working in the concert business. I was kind of being the bouncer security guard guy, in the aisle. And then I got promoted to assistant operations manager at a concert facility in LA called Universal Studios at the time. And I would see these messenger and courier guys coming in, bringing tickets or backstage passes or whatever. And I thought it was pretty intriguing to me because they were coming in all the time. So I looked around my hometown and I started to identify that there wasn't a lot of services that provided messenger and courier in our hometown. So me and a buddy created a company in my parents' garage when I was 21, and I went to work at night in the concert business. And then during the day, we built this company called Speedy Express, and we ended up getting it to about $4 million. About 30 people worked for us. We had, bobtail trucks, and we're handling cartage, airport cartage. So, that was my first endeavor. I've always been entrepreneurial, and, and we sold the company. I mean, it wasn't one of those life-changing exits, but it was still an exit nonetheless.
Yeah, I'm sitting here wondering, since it started in a garage, why your last name wasn't Jobs or Bezos.
Yeah. I wish I would have built a company of that size. And truthfully, today, that company would be worth a lot of money based on the home delivery. But, when we started it in 1984, 85, it went through a cycle, and then the fax machine and email and, all those things would have put it out of business. But then now home delivery and all the things that go on, food delivery, that business would have been very valuable today. I don't think we would have made it through the cycle, but, so we got out, which was fine.
If you would have made it through the cycle, what would it have taken to make it through? Is it enough for this stuff that we hear in this entrepreneurial world that probably you hear from tenacity and discipline and grit and fortitude? Like, would those things have gotten you through that?
I think those are things that are attributes that I have that are part of me, right? Tenacity, grit. There's no way I would have been an NFL referee today if I didn't have tenacity and grit. What I didn't know is what I didn't know at the time, Mark, and I was like 25, 26. Um, I didn't understand product market fit. I didn't understand a lot of things that I understand today. So I would have probably fumbled the opportunity, through all that.
You know something about that.
Yeah,
So the product market fit, can you go there since you brought it up?
sure. I mean, look, we built a fundraising business for animal welfare organizations from scratch. And what we proved was that donors like the opportunity to give in a transparent way and support rescue and shelters. And so we were able to find product market fit in the sense that, we grew a community of 350,000 donors that are in the Cuddly community today. And we have over 4,500 rescues and shelters. So I would say that's a good example of product market fit.
So what's next? Is it the launch of this pet food line in the spring of 25? It's probably one of the reasons why, we're talking today in the evolution. Like, is that the next move? With that, you'll speak about it, but with that, I believe every time somebody buys a bag of food or some type of product, you donate a meal to an animal in need. Is that the next evolution of the company?
Yes. So during COVID, so when you think about Cuddly in its current state, and it's like a baby registry or wedding registry, but it's created for animals in the care of rescues and shelters. And donors come in and they donate to the veterinary fund because these animals usually require services. And then they donate food, treats, blankets, veterinary tape, wee pad, anything that would go into the care and rehabilitation of this animal. And what we found is that 60% of the donations made on Cuddly are actual product donations. It's tangible. It makes me feel good because I know I'm giving Fluffy food so she can eat in order to continue her journey to rehabilitation. So we sell several $1 million of other people's food that are donated. And what we realized during COVID is we had supply chain issues and we couldn't keep the consistency up, right? So a lot of suppliers would go out of stock. There was an increase in people bringing animals into their homes, so there was a surge in the sector. So we started to R&D the development of our own food so that we can control the supply chain. Where it evolved from there was once we got through that, we then came to this aha moment in talking to our rescues and shelters. They have a food inconsistency problem. A lot of them just take donated food from their local Tractor Supply or wherever they can get donated food. And the problem is there's a lot of these animals under stress because they're in these rescues and shelters because they've been returned. And so inconsistency of diet increases the stress load on these animals. What you want to do is you want to have the animal eating a healthy quality food and it's consistent so it doesn't create any type of, stomach issues or other things that go on with changing their diet. And so we decided that we were going to build a program that helped our shelters and rescues get to food sustainability. And what I mean by that is if we can take a food line to the consumer and the consumer will purchase that food, quality food, we built a really amazing quality food at an affordable price, we'll donate a meal. And so now, Mark, you have a particular rescue or shelter that you want to support, you'll feed your dog or cat Cuddly food, and for every purchase, we'll donate a meal. So if we can help them get to a certain number of consumers attached to their organization, they're going to get consistent, free, donated food every month. And so it's a flywheel for them. And we're going to teach them how to be affiliate marketers. We're going to pay them a customer acquisition fee. So for every adopter they convert into a customer, we're going to pay them a customer acquisition fee. I'm going to pay that customer acquisition fee to Facebook or Google or somebody else Why wouldn't I give it to my rescue and shelter partner? Why wouldn't I teach them how to get to food sustenance, and maintain that food sustenance? And so that's what we're doing. We taught them how to be good fundraisers when we started the business. We taught them how to use email, social sharing, how to curate stories so that the donors will react. So this is just a next step in our evolution of trying to solve a problem for them, which is food sustainability.
So this is an expansion of a network that you've already built.
Yes, it was just a natural adjacency, right? We're already selling food on our own channel through the donations. Our shelters and rescues have a challenge in the fact that they don't have consistency in food. And so how do we merge the two together into what could potentially be a big business? Because food in the pet sector is growing exponentially at a significant level. It's going to cross over $100 billion plus. As we've seen over the years, probably when I'm older than you, so probably when I was growing up, the humanization of animals wasn't a thing as it is today.
Yeah, it wasn't even a thing when I was a kid. Being born in 79, growing up in the 80s, it wasn't. You talked about being a multiple entrepreneur and building a business out of your parents' garage and getting it to 4 million in sales in the 80s. That's legit. I mean, 4 million in sales in the 80s is probably 20 million now, right? For a similar business. What does the John know now, 30 something years later, about operating the business that then you didn't? Is there one thing, like in your quiet moments, not just to go out here and teach the world, that you're like, man, I really had to learn that lesson. If I would have done this back then? Is it leadership? Is it mindset? Is there one or two things that really sticks out, or is that a question you have to dig for?
No, the one thing that I think jumps out, and I don't know if it's a leadership question as much as you cannot spend your way into the consumer's heart. You have to have something that resonates with them, going back to product market fit, or you're going to burn through a lot of money. And you either have product market fit or you don't. And that's the first thing that you have to solve for as an entrepreneur. And it could take multiple variations and pivots till you find that sweet spot. I was reading a book about CPG companies and ramping, and they were talking a lot about Halo Top and how Halo Top came to market as a protein-based ice cream. Well, where they really exploded is when they figured out and they focused on how helpful it was for your weight management. And it took them an iteration or two. So you have to solve for that before you start burning cash.
Did you see this iteration of your relationships with the animal shelters evolving to a food line prior to this happening? Was it a part of the scaling?
It was not part of the master plan.
Yeah.
It was not. What we saw was a convergence of opportunity and knew that we had our own channel. That's the backstop, right? If I was going to, and I was telling my son this because we were at Global Pet Expo last week, and it's his project actually. And I said to him, I go, if you would have came to me and said, hey, Dad, I just want to launch a pet line into retail, I would have looked at him and said, I think you're crazy. But because we have this channel that we are selling donated food basically through, we have a backstop, a mechanism, because we have these very difficult to earn the trust of these shelters and rescues, because we have these wonderful relationships with these partners, we can get them food that they need. So we're solving a problem, and then the third part of this three-legged stool is we know that there's a group of consumers out there that enjoy purchasing with a purpose. Bombas, Warby Parker, Tom's Shoes.
Zappos,
and so
all those great, yep.
We've done, if you think about it, Mark, we've done the hard work of building the mechanism to give back, because we do that today. We're not just a brand that's going out and saying we're going to donate a meal and then try to figure out where we donate it, which is what goes on right now, right? We actually have a built-in mechanism in supply chain already built, because, if you take the rescues and shelters, some are foster-based, some have central facilities. It's a different logistics play for each one. And so we know how to solve for that because we're shipping items to them now. So we've we've built this give back mechanism. We know how to do it. So now can we meet the consumer where they're at, affordable, quality food that gives back, that's purchased with a purpose. And that's the next part of, can we get product market fit there?
Yeah. I'm sitting here thinking, when COVID popped off in February, March of 20, 5 years ago, we all saw massive challenges show up in front of us. But without that challenge, you wouldn't have figured out this opportunity.
We saw our business scale during COVID because people were home. And if you remember, people were loaded with PPP money and other things, right? So our donations increased. We grew the business from 2018 to 2021 by 1,400% compounded over that period. And that last surge was during COVID. It was very, very friendly to us.
Can I go back there and invest some money to 2018?
Yeah, I know. Well, as you know, valuations were very high then as well, too. And people, we were fortunate to raise money. Valuations are a little bit damped down now, so it was just, I've said this before, I would wish nothing but COVID never to have happened because it was very destructive on humanity, but it did help our business. We did get a COVID bump.
Yeah. So you have about 50 plus or minus employees, correct?
Yeah. If you include the development contractors that are offshore and the entire team, we're 50.
So what do they say about John?
I can be intense. I think some that don't know me find me to be scary. I think being on TV, right? Being on the NFL, it's like this bigger than life person because I'm on their TV. But once they get to know me and, the people that work here in the office with me versus the remote or whatever, they know I'm just, I've got their back. I'll do. If I always say, like, if I'm in the foxhole with a shovel in my hand and you're digging and I'm digging, you're welcome to say whatever you want to me. Like, give me your opinion. I don't want to hear from the person that's standing on the sidelines chirping. That just is a real big irritant for me. But if I'm side by side with somebody, they have my ear.
Sounds like that quote from Theodore Roosevelt about the man in the arena.
Yeah, love that quote.
Yeah, it's so good.
Yes.
It's so long, I don't remember it word by word, but it's talking about the person in the hole with the shovel.
Yeah,
doing the work.
Yeah, what I find today in my job, and you may find this in your world, is my job is to empower and provide resources and strategic direction. Empower and find the right people. I'm a resource allocator, and then provide strategic direction. I'm fortunate that we've grown to this level where I can do that.
You sound like Charlie and Warren. Allocation of capital.
Yep.
How do you feel now? When did CUDDLY start? When did you all found it?
So when I had the phone call, was November of 2013. We launched in January 2014. We pivoted in 16. So we got rid of the advertising arbitrage business. It wasn't working. And we went fully dark for 16 and came out as a fundraising platform in 17. Trajectory of the business changed incrementally when we added products in 18. That was the game changer. And it wasn't even my idea. I had a COO, super smart. She was a Stanford MBA. And she was the one, probably because she was younger than me, that understood this registry component, this, combining what you will. It's a combination of Amazon wishlist and GoFundMe that collided to create CUDDLY.
I'm sitting here thinking about just how well-versed you are and how you understand your business. How do you balance? You spoke about your son. He obviously works with you, but you spoke also when you started to travel, being a judge and a linesman and a referee and traveling with a bag all the time. How do you balance these three worlds of having a family, being a high-level professional in an elite sports league, being a referee there, and then running this business and having the passion to do them all well? Like, it's a real question. That's not just some throwaway cliche thing.
I think the root answer is that I don't understand the word balance. And when you're doing something that you're passionate about And I have a convergence of two things that I'm passionate about: being an NFL football official and being the CEO and leader of this company. It's not work. I
What do you
have a
say to
bit.
the people who the 80 or 90% of the people, and some of them that we love and know well, that boy, they'd say their thing feels like work?
Sure. And we've all been there, right? I referred back to Dragging a Bag, right? And it wasn't passionate for me. I wasn't passionate about that in the later years. It was more of something I had to do to put food on the table and keep a roof over our head. So you had to do it, but it wasn't passion. Passion is, for me, is building something out of nothing here, and getting and solving a problem for our rescue and shelter partners so they can do the work that they're doing. Mark, these people that get into rescue, they get into it because they're passionate about animals, and they want to go save animals. But a lot of them, some of them do, and they're amazing to me. But a lot of them don't treat it as a business; they treat it as a passion. And just because you have a 501c3 tax or nonprofit tax exempt status doesn't mean you shouldn't treat it as a business. And when I came into this space, I have always treated it as a business, as a merging of private sector and public sector. And I'm a capitalist, and I've approached it that way. And at first, I think I kind of got a stink eye or two from people in the space. They maybe didn't really like me. But what I always said was, look, higher tides lift all boats. The better that I do as a marketer, the better I do as a donor acquisition platform for you, the less you have to worry about fundraising and the more you can focus on saving more animals. If I can provide you food at no cost, then you can take those dollars now and reappropriate them to other things that are important, like vet bills. Yeah, you can take on that gnarly case now that you couldn't afford, but now that you don't have to spend $15,000 a year on food, maybe you can save 3 more animals.
So I'm connecting this when I said, what do your 50 plus or minus people think about you? And they're like, I could be intense. I'm thinking about so many of these influencers, and like a guy like David Goggins, right? The crazy runner and knees blown out, and the Navy SEAL. He's intense. I just see so many people in athletics that you're around the field on. They're pretty intense. I'm sure a lot of coaches are intense. It just seems like elite people are intense. Do you see that consistently or no?
100%. 100%. I had the fortunate opportunity to work in the league. I'm still in the league, and to watch Tom Brady and Peyton Manning. I'm fortunate today to watch Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes. So when I got in, Drew Brees, Ben Roethlisberger, Peyton Manning, I kind of came after the Joe Montana era. So I've had really basically, 2 generations of amazing quarterbacks that are in this league, Jalen Hurts, and all of them, if you look at what they're doing, they put their all into it. I mean, everybody's read about Tom Brady and how, dedicated and passionate. Well, there's a reason why he won 6 or 7 Super Bowls and played in 2 or 3 more. He didn't get there by accident.
Yeah, he was 7th, right? When he went to Michigan, wasn't he like the 7th guy on the roster down the depth chart?
Yeah.
It's wild. I think we must not believe that. We're like, oh, no, not really. Or, come on, guys. Now that was just some temporary stuff. He was going to rise. And, regardless if Drew Henson got hurt or not, or Drew Bledsoe got hurt, the guy was going to find an opportunity. He was going to play well. But I look at him and I'm like, that guy's not fast.
No. You watch his combine run in the 40 or something like that.
Yeah.
We've all seen that video. But that's not his secret sauce. He's going to outwork you.
Yeah.
I'm going to outwork you. Does
that apply in almost everything you've seen in life?
I don't know. I think I've seen people, and you may have too, that have the Midas touch. It's in their DNA, and whatever they touch just seems to work out. I don't know if they're just inherently smarter. I am more of, in my DNA, I have to outwork you. I have to work extra hard. For whatever reason in my journey, and I tell this to my son, it's just in our DNA. We have to work harder than the next guy.
But that works, doesn't it? Even if you don't have the Midas touch, that application works for almost everyone.
I do think that, my dad always just said that luck is where preparation meets opportunity, right? And that was his saying. And so, I have had wonderful opportunities, and when they've come about, I was ready. I was ready. Whatever it was, I was ready. I used to dream when I would go to the Raiders played in Los Angeles, and we had season tickets. And it was just when I started officiating, I would visualize as those guys walked out of the tunnel into the LA Coliseum, I visualized that was going to be me one day. And I would manifest, and I'm not a huge manifest guy, so I'm not like the guy to speak on this, but I do believe in it. I would visualize myself being one of them one day. And so I do believe in that if you have that marker, that North Star, then you need to work at it.
Yeah. It goes hand in hand with goals, isn't it? What your why and your goals, because you seeing yourself out there one day, then you say, that's a goal of mine. And if you think about it and you focus, that's the manifestation, and you practice and you prepare. So when the opportunity comes up, I'm sure if we were sitting here talking about, if it was a sports podcast and we weren't going to talk about entrepreneurship too much, I'm sure there's a ton of failure and outcomes not being what you wanted in the moment on your way to being where you're at now in this position in the NFL. I bet there's way more loss and failure than there were wins.
On both sides of the ledger, both in officiating and also in business. I had what I would consider a failed startup, my second one. It's funny, I had two choices at the time. I was ideating on two business ideas. The first was going to be managing foreclosed properties for banks. This was 2006. And because of the business that I was in, I knew how to bundle and aggregate services together and coalesce them into a platform that would have made it easy for the banks. If I would have gotten that off the ground, you're thinking the recession in 8 and 9, I wouldn't be saving puppies today. But what I chose was door number 2, which was standing in an airport, tired, thinking to myself, there's got to be a place in an airport to take a nap. And I went into what's called the sleep business. And my first idea was to build nap pods in airports. It's been done. I know the guy that did it. I helped him get his idea off the ground. We pivoted out of that because I didn't want to have retail real estate and employees operating in airports. And so I launched, with Suzanne Summers, I actually launched a preloaded app technology that helps you take a nap. Missed the product market fit, didn't see the app store coming, should have been the first nap app on the app store, missed that. So $600,000 later, I still take this, it's called Nap 26. And every time I take it, it's the most expensive nap I'll ever be able to take in my life.
Hey, thanks for tuning in. If you like these types of conversations, be sure to follow The Necessary Entrepreneur on your favorite platform so you never miss out on future content. So on John Hussey's playbook to success is the first chapter, don't take door number 2.
It was a bad choice, Mark. It was a bad choice.
So what would you say about choices? What would you say about choices?
I've learned from my son. He's very good at research, and research today is so available at our fingertips, right? And with ChatGPT and all the artificial intelligence and stuff, that I was more of a gut instinct guy. And I just was following my instincts. But I think, research is really important. How big is the total addressable market? Things that you're solving for. There's just so much into it. But at the end of the day, you got to just jump. You just got to jump.
And sometimes it's going to be really deep.
I didn't know that CUDDLY was going to turn into anything. And we hit a crossroads in our journey in 2019. I had to actually step in and become the full-time CEO. And so I was really technically balancing 3 jobs, dragging that bag as a sales guy, being the full-time CEO and NFL official. And I got to a place where I told my wife, I'm like, I can't do this well unless I go all in full-time. So I left the comfort and convenience of this salary, this book of business that I built over 20 plus years and went all in on Cuddly. And Mark, there's no guarantee that it was going to work.
You just said a word there that has a hyphen between it, two words that I've just seen to be so critical in all my experience and the folks that I get to sit and have a conversation with. All in.
I think that's a way that you ultimately figure things out when you need to figure them out. And I think that creates the passion. It also creates what I think is what's drove me, which is fear of failure.
Where'd that come from?
Growing up, I always joke, but my dad used to say, "Are you ever going to amount to something?" And so that chirping in my ear, maybe that was the motivator, the driver. One of the things my dad was a business guy and very entrepreneurial as well. One of the things I'm most proud of in my NFL success is I did it it wasn't business. It wasn't his help. I did it all on my own. And there's nothing bad about him. He's a great supporter and a wonderful human being. But I think I had to go out and carve my own path, and show myself that I can do it. But yeah, it just fear of failure is what drives me.
What do you hope for your son? You've talked to him a lot, talked about him a lot. So no doubt he's talented and special. I'm sure you would point out all the things that he's better at than you were and are. You're learning a ton from him. What do you hope for him? I'm assuming he's in his late 20s or early 30s.
He's 28 years old. And when he came out of the University of San Diego, graduated, he was in the ROTC program in the Navy, and they didn't give him any money for scholarship. We paid. Actually, thank you, Roger Goodell, because you paid for my son's college. I appreciate it, Uncle Roger. He had to make a decision if he was going to go and serve in the Navy. He actually had to make that decision his sophomore year, and when he came out, he went and he was a surface warfare officer in the Navy during COVID. So he had the longest deployment at sea because he was the only strike group that didn't have COVID. They had not been to port. And so he spent 212 days approximately straight out at sea. And what I've learned from him and what he learned from the Navy, he is a way better people manager than me. He is really, really good with people. And the Navy taught him to, address issues, chain of command. He's really big chain of command person, almost to a fault. Like I like people to come into my office and talk to me. And it just really irks him sometimes when they go around his office, but that's his problem, not mine. But for him, he is equipped because of his time in the Navy to be way better manager and leader than I will ever be.
Good does that feel? Like learning from the guy that you raised?
For sure. He is a better version, of me. And so one day, if this journey goes as planned, I hope he'll be the CEO of CUDDLY. I'm getting older. I'm getting long in the tooth, both in football and this job. And so I very comfortably would hand it over to him. I think where I worry for him is the startup failure success journey, right? The things that I've learned over this journey, he hasn't experienced. And so, I'm trying to share that with him without being a helicopter dad.
Yeah. Yeah. I've noticed something about the generation behind me, which would have been him. And then even the kids maybe 10 years younger than him. I've noticed that parents have this hope and this dream that they just want their kids' lives to be like a level up from theirs, and to remove the pain and to remove maybe some of the adversity that if you could go back, you're like, man, that really hurt and that was tough to get through. But at the same time, that's how you become what you are now.
Yeah. If he hadn't had the 3 years in the Navy and the deployments that he had, they were the most deployed strike group during those 3 years, and the adversity of being at sea for 200 some plus days, he learned a lot about himself. And that was in a laboratory that I had I couldn't protect him. There was, he came out of that a more mature, a more well-defined leader of men and women. And I think he's equipped with the skill set, but you're right. Like if he just came in and worked for Cuddly straight away, I don't necessarily know that would have been good for his personal development.
Yeah. Yeah. It's almost like he got to go through in the Navy what you went through on your own without your dad's help, learning to be a referee and on the field.
For sure. For sure.
Did you think
Accelerated. His journey was accelerated or compressed, you know?
Do you think you were going to be this 61-year-old guy huffing and puffing up the field chasing after these young cats?
I think yes, I dreamed about it. So you're too young for this, but there were a couple of gold standards in the league when I was, coming up. A gentleman named Jerry Markbright and a gentleman named Red Cashin. Red Cashin.
I remember Mark Bright. Mark Bright. I was born in '79. I was watching NFL games in the mid '80s as a kid.
Yeah. And Red Cashin with his first down, and I used to watch these guys and how they ran a game and stuff. And so it's funny, Mark, when I walk out now out of the tunnel, I always think, is there a little young John Hussey sitting up there dreaming about being John Hussey one day,
What's your thing? If Mark Bright they had the first downs, and sorry, I don't know if you're friends with him or not, but Hockey Lee had his 25-inch arms hanging out here. Like, what's your thing?
I don't. Well, in my early referee career, I got tagged with the name Angry Huss because I looked very angry when I would make my announcements. I was the farthest thing from being angry, but I am intense, And so I
told the guys, hey, I'm going to interrupt you. You know what I told the guys today? I was like, man, he's mean.
Well, that's what people think. They think I'm mean. I mean, literally. And I'm not mean. By far, I'm the biggest, I love having fun. You know what I mean?
The intensity came through the screen really, really well.
Yeah. And so I guess my early career, it's kind of leveled off a little bit in the last 2 years. I don't get that as much. Yeah. So maybe I'm more relaxed. It's probably driven by me. Yeah. I do need to get the pipes, though, a little bigger this year. And so that's my summer goal is bigger pipes.
Okay. All right. So you're hitting the gym. How has business changed at the same pace in the same way that maybe the NFL has changed over the years? It seems like everything has changed and it's picking up speed exponentially. Do you see that happening in both of the worlds that you live and work in?
I will say that, as you know, change is inevitable in business, right? It's just, if you're not set up to address change, then you're going to die. Basically change or go home. Where I learned a big part of change is the National Football League. And they've adapted, take, for example, when I first came in, the hits to the head on receivers, defenseless receivers, well, it was a problem. And the NFL addressed it. And we have pretty much, for the most part, taken the head out of the game. I mean, there's still every once in a while a hit to the head of a defenseless quarterback or defenseless receiver, but that injury rate has gone down substantially. Look at the kickoff rule from last year. The kickoff there was significant amount of injuries on the kickoff. They were concerned about the longevity of whether the kickoff would remain, and the leadership back in New York did a wonderful job of bringing together the thought leaders on special teams, and they solved. Some people don't like the kickoff as it is today, but
we don't like change. That's what it is, right? We don't like change.
Change is change. You had to change. Well, and if you don't like change and you want to get stuck in the same old ways, you're going to die.
Yeah, the world's going to pass you by.
Yeah, it's going to pass you by.
I saw it come out. They're evaluating the tush push.
No comment.
Yep, I knew it. I was like, I got to get him to something on no comment on this.
No comment.
Yeah, that's a good one. We'll make a good reel out of that one, guys. The no comment. What do you think the evolution of Cuddly? Are you working this off of a 3-year trajectory, a 5-year? Do you feel comfortable saying that you scale it up to an X multiple and somebody comes and buys you? Are you the acquisition specialist? What do you think is going to happen with this thing? What's the 3 to 5 to 7 years?
Our goal is to make Cuddly a household name. And, that's our plan. Our desire is to make the brand a household name. In that, if I can solve the food sustainability challenges for my rescue and shelter partners, for our rescue and shelter partners, I'll feel like I did something meaningful in humanity, right? I mean, we've raised $100-some million for them. That's meaningful. If you look at the success stories of the animals on our site, it's meaningful. So I feel like I've made an impact, but can I make a bigger impact? Yes. Am I a capitalist and an entrepreneur? And do I believe in? I think we are a perfect acquisition for a strategic. If we scale the food brand, we're an acquisition target now for our fundraising. The challenge that we have now is we're launching a consumer brand inside a fintech-enabled fundraising platform. Talk about really making investors' heads spin around, because they either have a mandate to be in consumer or be in fintech, but not cross over. So we're building something unique, if you will. If we can pull that off, then I think the enterprise value for this company is incrementally higher. And yes, as long as the acquisition was to keep our dream going, to take care of our shelter and rescue partners and keep them, feeding them and giving them food, then there's a time and a place for that. I'm in my 9th year here and I'm 61. There is a laundry list of other things that I'd like to do in life, Mark, beyond this, but I need to see this through.
What do you want to do? Does John know vacation?
I'm starting to work on my golf game a little bit.
Oh, it's going to take over your life. Everyone that says that, I'm like, it just took over your life because you're highly competitive. If you're intense, see, you can't just try at that game. You just get crazy with it.
100%. But what was my choice? Football season ended and Saturday morning came, the weekend after football season ended, where I'm packed, I'm leaving for the airport. What are my choice? More chores or go figure out, take that competitive energy and go try to play golf?
Have you found a replication of great courses versus that Southern California experience you had? Because there's a lot of them out there.
We have a lot of courses in Dallas, but right now it's not about the course. It's about this guy. I got to, I am laying 2 around the green a lot. And next thing you know, it's like ping pong. So
who are you learning from?
A gentleman named Jamie Thompson at Lantana Golf Club. So I'm trying to, I am taking that energy and I'm putting it somewhere right now, but there's always been a love for travel for me. I've been very fortunate in my job in the NFL to referee the first game in Munich, to referee in Mexico City, to referee in Germany and Scotland. I've seen a lot of things. So there's a world out there that I want to see.
Do you have the bucket list that you still want to accomplish? You haven't had ref to Super Bowl yet.
That is on my list. Yes, sir. There were 2 things, and that's item number 3 on my list. One of them was to referee a Super Bowl. Officiate a Super Bowl. And the second one was to be the referee in a Super Bowl. I've been the alternate twice, so I've been a bridesmaid, but I hope that they love John Hussey to be a bride one day.
Do you get evaluated? You won't go into that too much, but is that an evaluation yearly?
It is. It's week by week. It's a competitive scoring system based on mistakes or things you should have called. There's also upgrades for things that you did well. And at the end of the season, there's a calculation done based on points. And that's who gets selected.
Wow. True meritocracy.
It is. It is. You talk about competitive and you talk about referees. Referees are the most competitive or one of the most competitive positions because they're the best of the best, right?
Yeah.
All the other officials, if they're listening.
Only 14 games on any given Sunday, pretty much?
Yeah, for the most part. What is it, 18-week season? There's 17 crews. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Do you need to do everything since you're the elite of the elite in what you do? Do you need to make sure that happens in every part of your life, or can you accept a little bit lower achievement in other parts?
I can accept that is the burning question that I have with myself is when I'm not on, I'm off. if that makes sense.
Yeah.
If I'm
Yeah.
not chasing something, I tend to just really take my foot off the gas.
So I'm assuming you can get in trouble by the NFL. Who can you get in trouble by at work in the CEO role? Who do you have to answer to there?
Well, fortunately, we're venture funded. So I have a board of directors that I report to. And, I think when you start a company, you're the driver. And if you have that role, that doesn't change. And this fear of failure is significant for me. That drives me, right? So it holds me accountable. As we talked about earlier, my roles changed. When I first started the company, I was in charge of marketing. I did, logistics, supply chain. You wear a lot of hats. Now I really focus on three things. And my son's the COO, so I'm fortunate that it's a little less day to day. So it gives me an opportunity maybe to go hit a couple buckets of balls when I need to or whatever. But I think about it 24/7.
Well, have you found attributes or characteristics that you value most in employees?
I do. Bring me a solution. Don't just bring me the problem. If you're wrong, you're wrong. Or if I don't like it, we'll chop it up. But don't just bring me the problem. Like if you're a data person and you interpreting data for me, give me your conclusion. Don't let me have to form my own conclusion. Your conclusion might be wrong, but at least I'm seeing you try to contribute to the greater good. And not everybody is confident to bring the solution. Like, hey, I discovered this. This is a problem, but I called so and so or X, Y, and Z, and this is what we're doing to mitigate the issue. Great, thank you.
Does that apply on the field as well with your crew?
Are different levels of officials that are comfortable with the rules. And depending on where they're at in their career trajectory and how good they might be as a rules person, the ones that step up and offer an opinion when we have a quirk, if you have holding, I've done it enough, I understand holding. But if you have a really quirky play, the ones that step up and provide some type of opinion or input, I value tremendously, because you're standing there in front of 60,000 people. They're playing the Jeopardy theme song, and you're anxious because I like to go fast. I'm trying to get to a decision, and the more input I can get, the better.
That applies in business.
Yeah.
Same thing.
It can be your Achilles heel, though, too, sometimes going too fast.
But, I think that's an analogy of, SpaceX and, Elon blowing up rockets. What he says is we're going to launch it and we're going to learn. And the same thing that Jeff Bezos has said with Amazon, he said, give me 70% of the information and let's make a decision.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. What's that old saying? Hire fast, fire faster?
Yeah. And I hated that initially in business, but I just invoked that a couple weeks ago, and I'm going to be honest, I find it to be true.
It is true. Rip the Band-Aid off all in one. Every time I've limped through it, rehabilitation or something, most of the time it doesn't work out. It's just very painful.
Yeah. Does this fear of failure cause you to be better in the moment? It's stressful. It probably can cause anxiety at times. I don't know if you want to be perfect or not, but you want to achieve a high level. Is that good or bad? You're not going to change who you are. I have something similar inside of me. It comes from different places in us. Do you think it's good or bad? We have it.
It is who I am. It is who I am. I think the thing that you hear about a lot, and if you listen to Jay Shetty or if you listen to all those type of people, is just being comfortable where you're at today. I've learned to try to enjoy that, and I've learned to try to slow down a little bit. I've learned to try not to rush to do something. My son has had a significant impact on, because he's a research guy, right? He needs to think through things pragmatically, and it's rubbed off on me. because I was a ready, fire, aim guy, and that made the most sense to me. And there's a balance in there, because then you see the other side where it takes bureaucracy, slows you down, and you lose innovation. I mean, I think that's why, going back to Cuddly and Cuddly Food, we're doing something unique in building affiliates with our partners, and we're innovating, right? And so, can we move faster than the big guys? Can we aggregate and get this rolled up faster than the big guys? That we have to move quick, because if we do something and we show success, they're going to come find us.
Have you noticed anything, without invoking teams, players, and this could correlate to business? I think this is something, because so many of us watch these sports on a now it's a daily basis. I mean, goodness, right when the season ends on something, another sporting event starts or something else. And so have you noticed a shared similarity between the elite, whether it be coaches, whether it be players?
I have noticed this one trait in teams in the NFL, and I believe in it in my company, that the team takes on the personality of the head coach. And you have these really intellectual head coaches, they're play callers, they're really mild mannered, and then you have, the other side, where you have these just fiery guys that everything's a fight, and they're coming to kick your ass, and they're going to take no prisoners. And so you see those teams, and they're tough to play, and it's how they practice. How you practice is true how you play. And I've seen that if you're in a really close game at the end, if your head coach is a fighter, you're fighting to the very, very end. And I think that's what I've tried to instill in Cuddly, is I would consider myself a fighter. I'm not a flight, I'm a fight. The people have different reactions to stress, right? Fight or flight. I'm going to hang in there and fight. And so we have a really tough job in a really tough space where people are doing really hard work saving animals. And we go to work every day to fight for our share of the total addressable market, so we can help our partners have the resources they need to do the work they do. There are other people raising money out there for animal welfare organizations, but they're not my partners. I'm raising money for my partners because I have to fight for it. And so I'm a fighter. So I think the trait, organizations take on the mindset of their leader. I believe that.
I'm going to take a shot in the dark here that loyalty matters to you.
100%. You're in the circle of trust till you're not.
Can you get back in?
For sure. I mean, for sure. My faith has taught me that, and being in the NFL, I mean, isn't the NFL a league of second chances and third chances? And being around that, for sure. But in certain jobs, finance, I don't know you're getting a second chance.
Yeah, you better go make it happen again on your own, because I don't think too many people are.
Yeah.
If you've lost millions and millions and millions and make one or two bad mistakes, I don't know if the same people are coming to bail you out.
No, but I don't. I think we're going to make mistakes. I mean, I've made them time and time again. I made one in the Super Bowl that I worked. I called a penalty on a face mask that just wasn't there. It looked like it, it smelled like it walked like it, and it just wasn't there. Now we're in a different time now where we're using technology to kind of fix those things. And I wish from my heart of hearts that somebody would have told me to pick it up. I still have nightmares about it, and this was 2011. It didn't impact the game, but it was the biggest game of my life, and so you make mistakes. It's just how. I have a really dear mentor friend of mine, he always said, don't make it fatal. You're going to make mistakes, but don't make it fatal.
Are you allowed to tell us if New York is really in your ear?
I think there's a collaboration. They are not officiating real time. That's something that is a firewall and will be preserved as a firewall.
It's probably awesome to have the support then try to get it right, because isn't that the goal?
I think getting it right is just a balance of how much technology is too much technology.
Yeah. So what
but they
about
are not,
business? Is there ever, you were going to say something, go ahead.
no, I was just going to say, I just want to reiterate, they are not officiating from in my ear.
Yeah. Um, in business, is there ever going to be too much technology? And I'm wondering how tech comes into animal welfare and what's happening there.
Well, those are things we have to think about, right? And especially in the AI and the changing of the game. We use AI to help write our campaigns and curate them and optimize what works to resonate with donors. So we're just teasing it out a little bit, but there's so much, in AI that everybody's talking about. It's the wild, wild west, the new frontier. You don't want to be late to the party, but I don't totally understand or know what the impact is. Again, I'm peddling consumer goods now, as far as donation items and getting supply chain logistics, getting these products to rescues and shelters. I believe in technology. I'm a technologist, right? We built a technology company. I'm not investing a lot in AI right now because I don't know how it can help our business completely right now.
If people recognize you, what do you want them to recognize you about? This isn't one of those, what do you want on your tombstone? When you're walking through the airport, do you want them to recognize you as that guy on Sunday watching their favorite sporting event and team, or being a CEO of a significant company that is scaling? Which one?
That's funny you ask that, because when they're booing me on Sunday, I so want to flip on my microphone and say, but I save puppies Monday through Friday. Doesn't
Is
that
that
make
why you
me a
did
good
this?
guy?
It took an hour podcast to get to why you really started this company.
to offset that, on the NFL side, I just want to, if I could be remembered as being, fair and equitable and running a good game, like trying to stay out of the controversy, knock on wood. I run a good game, I run a clean game, and, we process through our penalties and you don't know who we are. That's the ultimate goal, is you really don't know my name. The brand and the power of the NFL makes that difficult today because the white hat is a very prominent position in the National Football League.
Yeah, we don't like to know you.
No, I would appreciate it if you could stop bombing me on Twitter or X after the game. I am not that guy,
How's it feel? So in business, so then we'll talk about, do you like to be known as a CEO? Because man, on your Thursdays and Sundays and Mondays and Saturdays as we get towards the playoffs, and I mean, I think we're gonna be 7 days a week, the NFL, but do 50% of the people watching that game not happy with you in any moment?
100%. Somebody is not going to like me, period. And
Not somebody, a lot of somebodies.
yeah, and even the winning team sometimes doesn't like you, even though they won.
That guy with that frown on his face, all he is mean to people and want to throw flags.
We were standing after the game. I was fortunate. We were in New York. It was Giants and Jets. This was a few years ago. And they brought my family down to meet me at the bus, right? So they brought them down early before the game ended, and they had them stationed in the tunnel right there. Very nice, generous thing for the security to do. The Jets won. I come off the field and, hugging my family, and this Jets fan is just blowing me up. And I looked at him like, you won the game. This is my family. We can do with a few less F-bombs right now. And it just was, it was a moment we still laugh about.
So you didn't go give him a hug.
I'm a fighter or a flighter. What do you think my natural?
Yeah, I'm glad you didn't go visit him.
No, my son grabbed me by the arm and said, "Let's go, Dad."
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I bet I'm sitting here saying that's probably taught you some stuff.
Officiating has taught me comportment and how to deal with different personalities in stressful situations. I travel a lot. I mean, just traveling teaches you comportment. I mean, people are different. Everybody's different, and they have their, they don't know what stress they're under. You don't know what they're dealing with in their life. Driving teaches you that in today's society, so there's a lot of opportunities to make a choice. And I've not always been great at that, but I'm learning at this, and I don't really know what's going on with that other person, and maybe they're having a bad day, and maybe I can make it a little better. I really try to be nice to, one of the things that Red Cashin taught me growing up was be nice to the ticket takers, the security people, the locker room attendant, say hi to them when you come in. And it's part of our crew mantra. We absolutely, and I have a no diva rule on my crew. We absolutely no divas. Be nice to everybody we come in contact with and leave the locker room better than we found it when we leave the stadium. And it's funny, Mark, I'll see 2 or 3 people on the crew cleaning up, throwing away the trash. I've been on other crews before where they just walk out with food everywhere and towels everywhere. And that's not a judgment on them. It's how I want us to be seen as a crew. When John Hussey and his crew come to the stadium, they come in, they're classy, they leave the place better than they found it.
It's taking full ownership.
I was taught that by somebody that before me. Everything that I've learned in life mostly has been brought, you learn from other people.
How do you, as you grow the business, as you go out here and spend your time, I appreciate the hour and a half that you spent with us today, learning about your brand and you, and everybody likes hearing about sports. And, we'll reflect back on this. It'll probably be me. I'll probably see you on Sunday and I'll be like, you know what? If I could go back and not have that conversation with him, I would. But how do you want consumers, as you're building Cuddly, how do you want consumers to engage with the brand? What's the message?
To feel good about what they're doing. We have built a really quality product. We built it with the animals in rescues and shelters in mind. So in very high stress situations, we were very purposeful and not adding byproducts. We separated land and sea. We built what we would consider a food that I would feed to my dogs at an affordable price, and to feel good about purchasing with a purpose. And the purpose is to help save more animals. But purpose is to create food sustainability in these organizations so that they can free up these dollars that they're spending on food currently to save more animals. So to feel good about the brand. Again, go back to our origination. We were created to help them solve their number one challenge, which was fundraising. This is an extension. We're tackling another problem that we've discovered, which is food sustainability.
Will they go to your website to buy food as this rolls out here in the spring?
CUDDLY.com. And it launches tomorrow, actually.
Awesome. I don't know when we're going to get this out.
Perfect.
So it's coming out Thursday. So there you go. So today's what? Monday? They're all 7 days a week. So it'll be out 2 days after.
Yep. So it launches April 1st officially. It's our first SKU, which is salmon and rice. We have a warehouse full. It's beautiful. And it's been 2 years of hard work, and you talk about ready, fire, aim. This guy has really worked on having to be his most patient self, but I'm excited to be here.
It's awesome. If you do write the book, and I'll just go ahead and name it, John Hussey's Playbook to Success. What's the first chapter?
Never give up. Never give up. I think it was Elon Musk's quote, something about talking about being a startup entrepreneur is like chewing on glass and staring into the abyss. You've probably experienced this as well. There are wonderful days and there are frustrating days. When I was trying to be an NFL referee, I'll tell you a really quick sidebar story. I went to NFL Europe. I was in the league at the time as a line judge, and they took 7 candidates to go to NFL Europe to be referees. It was your audition. 6 of those guys became referees. This guy did not get a shot. When the opening came, they hired somebody directly out of college football who had no NFL experience whatsoever and made him a referee. It was devastating. It was dream killing. It was brutal at the highest level. And I had a choice. What was I going to do? Well, there was some baggage apparently that I didn't know about around me as a line judge that I had to solve for. So I had a heart-to-heart conversation with the guy that was making the decision. And I said to him, okay, let me solve for that. Give me the field judge who happened to be on my side, right? We were paired. Give me the field judge that struggled the most last season and put him with me this coming season. And I'll show you that not only will we have a great season, but he will get in the playoffs and I'll level him up. And sure enough, that gentleman made the playoffs. Me, I went to the Pro Bowl because I had such a bad year that I went to the Pro Bowl, but I did what I had to do. And I didn't give up. And the next year I became a referee.
Awesome story. Can't believe that was a sidebar. Hey, you've been great. Go out and visit cuddly.com for the 2 or 200,000 people that are going to listen to this. And thanks for the stories, man. And I am sitting here, and even when you make that bad call this year, when my Bengals are involved, if you catch a Bengals game and you make a bad call, I'm going to share something about this. I'm going to be like, guys, let him have it.
Mark, there's a lot of static in the line. I can't really hear you.
But hey, I hope you go from the guy that didn't quit and didn't give up to the guy that gets a Super Bowl before you retire.
I appreciate that. Sincerely.
Yeah, man.
That's on my heart, I'll tell you, because I'm competitive. And look, I've had a great career. I've had a great body of work. It would be the feather in the cap, right?
It'd be even better if it was my Bengals, if we can get Burrow there. I know you can't comment on that.
I'm going to have nothing to do with that, but I would love to say hi to Joe Burrow in whatever stadium that is in.
Awesome. Hey, thank you. Much success with cuddly.com, with getting all this stuff off the ground and selling all this food. And thanks for the time. And we'll see if we can sell a couple bags of pet food for you.
You're wonderful, Mark. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it. Okay, bye-bye.